I don't really go out very much. I don't socialise very much. And it's then that I get all this, how people perceive the Cure and what it means to people. And it's really that. It's actually quite shocking sometimes, the depth of emotion that the band generates. It is, particularly on a tour, it's really actually quite hard to cope with, because people are looking at you like you're something that you're not.
This is Absolute Radio. I'm Danielle Perry. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Robert Smith to the programme. How are you? Pleasure to meet you.
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for coming in, because there's a lot to talk about, isn't there? A lot that's happened over the past, since the 40th anniversary shows, the release of the album, and also the gestation period with this new record. So can we rewind a little bit back to when the first initial ideas of this album started? Because, everyone was so excited to hear there was actually new music coming.
It has been a long time. I'm not, perhaps what we ended up with wasn't really in my mind. But I mean, I can go right back to an iteration of the band that broke up in 2009, and probably I took a year off because I was kind of a little bit kind of tired of everything. Really, I was tired of all the upset. And a lot of things were going on around me in real life that I had to deal with. So around about 2011, we did the Bestival Festival.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of like, I thought, yeah, we should probably keep going. Because I was, I turned 50 and I felt old. And I thought, I think I better stop and do something else. And it was around about then that I thought, well, we should probably get a new lineup and with a view to, because that's what we'd always done, was make a new record. Go out and play, It was just what we'd done for 30 years almost. So as the time went by and we just started playing shows, Reeves Gabrels joined us on guitar, Roger O'Donnell rejoined on keyboards, and we just started playing shows. And before I knew it, like a few years had gone by, and all we were doing, I say all, was going around the world and playing music, and actually playing songs that we'd never played before and songs that we kind of neglected. And because it's it was even then it's a big repertoire of songs, and I realised that we could pretty much play 3-hour shows and never play the same song twice. So my focus really just shifted into being a live band and making an album. It kind of came up from time to time. The others would say to me, we should make a record, but I always felt if we did, we'd be kind of pushed back into that idea of like promoting, and I thought that's not really what I want to do. I'm enjoying myself, and when I started, I always wanted to feel like I was doing it for what I considered the right reasons, and so I never wanted to end up being a professional person. I never wanted to release records because that's what we did, So I was comfortable with it, and we kind of drifted away. I mean, the weirdest thing about this current period is getting played on the radio again, because it's like it is a bit odd. But so we were playing, and because we were at a level where we were pretty successful, and so we're not advertising, and we're selling out shows really just because we announce a show and it sells out. So I get into a cab and people are like, are you still going? So there's this sense through probably like a decade that like we weren't really there very much, even though we were doing like 3 nights at Wembley Arena and stuff and playing British shows. A lot of our focus has always been outside of the UK, because I've always felt that I wanted to be a global band. That sounds very grand, doesn't it? But I never really wanted to get dragged into which is sometimes, not so much now, but at times the UK music scene is actually quite sort of difficult to deal with. And so I like the idea of the Cure just like being for everyone, anyone that wants to see us. So we've kind of I suppose it was driven home to me when my own family was surprised that we were playing. When we did Glastonbury in 2019, some of the younger members of my extended family were like, whoa, yeah, done in Glastonbury. And I thought then perhaps we should start to think about doing something new, because I realised that 10 years had gone by and we hadn't had any new songs out, really. So that's that year, 2019, when we did a lot of festivals and stuff, we went in the studio and we started recording, and that's when I knew we were going to do a new album. It just took a lot longer than I figured it would to get to the point where the first one was ready to be released. I think, as I've said recently, I was trying to get everything we did finished so that I could somehow, I don't know what was in my mind, but and it was an impossible task because I'd finish one and then that would change my idea of like another one, and I'd go back and redo that one, and so it was kind of like a puzzle that was never going to get solved. So in the end, I just fixed what I thought were the 12 songs that worked best together, and I concentrated on those, and eventually it got whittled down to 8, and then we ended up with Songs of the Lost World. But there's another album which is pretty much ready to go,
right.
Which is its companion piece, and then there's a third one which is completely different. It's really kind of random stuff. It's like late night studio stuff, but some of it's really, really good actually. It's just very, very different. This Songs of the Lost World album is a very emotional piece of work, and the companion piece, it's not quite as dark, but it explores a little bit more. It explores other subjects a little bit more. But the third one is it's very odd actually, but it's good. I haven't finished the words to that one because I need to get into it more. My headspace has been much more focused on performing these songs and
Promageddon,
the show.
maybe.
Yeah, so I getting this part of the project. I mean, I don't really want it to end because it's been so good. It's been the reaction to the new music has been so great. We've been playing a lot of the songs, probably 4 or 5 of the songs over the last couple of years when we've been playing. So they're not really new songs to us, but there's now like definitive studio versions, and the other 3 songs that we've never played live have also been well received on the basis of one show. I don't know. So yeah, but it's been really lovely to be to feel people kind of like giving us all the love.
I was going to say the audience reaction is new. That sort of the relationship between yourself and people listening to it, the recorded version and the live experience must be new for you, even though you've had the songs for a while.
Well, we've only done the one show at Troxy just to launch the album. So 2 songs we'd played one of them a couple of days before at the BBC, but essentially they were the premiere performances of those songs, and it was very tense on stage. It was much, much different to anything we've done for the last few years. There was a real sense of like we could go horribly wrong here, which, I mean, when you get into a groove and you're playing, you're doing like, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, we played like more than 90 shows. You don't really worry too much about going wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I never worry about going wrong because it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, it's already happened to me many times. So, but some of the bands still get very, very nervous, and it's only when you get into that kind of groove and there's a lot of muscle memory kicks in and stuff, you can start to explore more as a band, and that's what I really enjoyed. When we were becoming this like live thing, that's the side of the band which sometimes I disregarded, and it was much more focused on albums and that sort of thing. So. It was weird. It was like going back in time a little bit, and everyone was a bit frozen before we went on, and it kind of showed a little bit. For me, I wanted it to be the greatest. I always wanted it to be the greatest show we've ever done. Every time we set foot on stage, but there was a little bit too much tension. But the audience helped because they wanted it to be really good, and that always helps. You can sort of sense people like, come on,
the anticipation of it.
But yeah, I mean, just trying to remember words and stuff and the right chords, and like you've never played it before. You can rehearse as much as you want, but when you step out on stage and the lights are on and there's people there, it is a really different thing. And it's not so much being nervous. It's just like it is just different. You're performing. When you're rehearsing, you're not really performing. Although I remember someone telling me that when you rehearse, you should perform. But you can't. It's
quite weird, isn't it? It's quite strange to get into character like that.
Yeah, because you're the essence of of performance is the communication with other people. It's like, and if you're rehearsing, you don't really have that. You have it within the band, and you try and work things out so that like everyone kind of like feels comfortable. Everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. But that's totally different. It's not. If any one of us started performing rehearsals, it would be short-lived.
Out.
What do you think?
You recorded this at Rockfield, didn't you?
Yeah.
How was that? What was your sort of lasting memory of your time recording up there this time round?
It's a great studio, Rockfield. I mean, it's I wanted somewhere that was pretty bleak.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say it's bleak, it's the wrong word. It's reasonably remote.
Yeah.
It's its own world, which is what I wanted. So there's 2 big studios there and 2 lots of accommodation. We booked the whole lot so that there was just us there for about, I think, for a month. It was really, I mean, me and Jason were the only 2 that were there for the whole period with Paul, who was engineering it, and the others kind of came and went and stuff. But I wanted to create this environment where it was how we've done. I think our best albums have been in that environment where you just you forget the outside world for a while. You know, there's no news, and I even made people turn their phones off and stuff. So it's all like very.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, the studio, we decorated the studio with stuff from 1969 because it was all at the time the working title for the project was Live from the Moon, and it was all about the 50th anniversary of the moon landings, and,
right.
which is why we ended up with end songs of me singing about staring at the moon when they landed on the moon. And so we had all just junk really from 1969 littered about the studio.
Where did you get that from? Where did the junk come from?
Splurged on eBay, and I brought some of it from home. Actually, I've never ever thrown anything away.
Saved searches, 1969.
Yeah, most people bring suitcases of clothes. I brought boxes of old toys. So we hung lots of stuff up and just, you know, we even had old newspapers and magazines and stuff just to. It was a bit. No, it was good, actually. It was good because it wasn't taken too seriously, but it was nice. You found yourself kind of reading Time magazine from 1969, and it was just, you actually entered a different sort of mindset, different world. And it did work after, particularly after a few, I would say the second week, it was noticeably different. Like when we had to go out somewhere, we went to the pub, and it was really like, you know, it's honestly like time traveling. You go in the night, and then people would be there with their phones and stuff, and everyone had forgotten that that's what people do. You know, and it was really good. And we go, let's go home. We'd go back to Rockfield. We'd just get a takeout and go back to Rockfield. Yeah,
oh, nice. And what would a working day be like during those recording sessions? Obviously, starting later.
Well, it kind of smeared itself out over about probably like an 18-hour day. So Jason and Paul would start much earlier and try to get sounds and drum-in sounds and, you know, all that, the technical stuff and get kind of ready. And I'd join them sort of pre-dinner, and then we'd have a bite to eat, and then we'd kind of work through till 4 or 5 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then I'd listen back and go to bed about sort of 6 or 7. That's a day. So.
Yeah.
But it's not work. I mean, it's a dream, you know. It's just fabulous, and because of Rockfield's sort of, and they've got animals and stuff. You know, you're surrounded by. It's basically like a studio in a farm.
Oh, lovely.
But it's just a really nice environment. It was sad to leave it. I must admit, it's like a real wrench. It's like kind of last day at school, the last day at Rockfield.
Oh right, yeah.
You know, and you're never going to see anyone again. It was like all quite tearful, but which you shouldn't, you know, it sounds really soppy, doesn't it? But,
no, I get it.
But there was an awful lot put into it, and it was kind of like that every day there was. We were trying to create something that was just like really, really good, you know, because I think at that point I realised that having the downside of having waited so long to make something new is there's an awful lot of expectation. I suddenly became aware of, like, you know, if this isn't really good, people are going to think, what was the point? You know, why did you bother making it? So,
with that sort of weight of expectation, I know I did read in one article or interview that you'd done that you were speaking with your wife about the track listing and things like that. Is she quite a good person is she one of the people that you speak to in terms of any kind of contextual?
I'd be foolish not to. You know?
Sound back.
It'd be an unhappy house if I didn't. She's been with me all the way through, and she's opinionated. You know, so I rely on her to tell me stuff that probably a lot of other people might not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Pretty much everything that other people might not. So, yeah, we grew up in the same sort of environment and listened to this, you know, and when you're young, I mean, a key part of getting on with someone is that you share this love of the same music. And so, yeah, and thinking that agreeing on which people are not good people and which people are, you know. So it's all that kind of feeds into it. So it's not just about the music. It's actually more about, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing it? It's more that it's like kind of questioning really what's going into it. She doesn't say, you know, that should be an A minor.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's okay.
All right then. Yeah. In terms of the narrative of the record, you've been talking about how it sort of helped you with grief a little bit, like performing these songs, and how I think a quote I read earlier was, when we're younger, and I really understood what you meant by this, we almost romanticise sort of death and things like that. And now and I felt it as well, certain people that you know in your life begin to start passing away. Is that sort of accurate quote from this project?
Yes, it's difficult. I mean, I think I wrote the songs because I find it difficult to talk about. Actually, it's like and certainly performing the songs, some of the songs, was a way for me to cope, and it also was a way for everyone to cope, really. So, I mean, grief's not. I mean, of course, it's the most intensely personal feeling, but it isn't. It's kind of universal, which I think is why a lot of the albums kind of resonated with people, particularly of our age. Although The Cure has a lot, it's a very wide-ranging. Like the age range is enormous. Like when we do live shows, you know, there are people that could be our grandchildren, but which is difficult to accept. but I think the part of the record that's kind of resonating with our generation is really that the it does become real. It's like, yeah, it's difficult to talk about when you are with someone and they die. It's a different thing. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose what the majesty of a band like The Cure, who we've all sort of grown up with, you know, sort of the decades that have passed, is that it is sort of working through everyone's lives together at the same time, isn't it? The same kind of timeline. So it is really, really good for fans to be able to
There's an expectation with that as well, which is actually quite weird.
Yeah.
That, people, you know, more and more as the years go by, are so desperate for us not to stop. I understand that because like when Bowie died, I was like absolutely devastated. It's like someone's kind of come and ripped something away from me. But it's not enough of a reason to continue. It seems to be for a lot of people, but but for me personally, I have to kind of feel that there's a point to what I'm doing. It has to satisfy me primarily, and then hopefully it satisfies others. But so I think, you know, I made this record. It was kind of uncompromising. We haven't been signed to a label for more than 10 years, which has allowed us a degree of freedom, which is, I suppose, for the previous 30 years, I didn't really have. We were always kind of like, although we were pretty much allowed to do what we wanted, there were always lines, whereas when you're doing it on your own. But we re-signed to Fiction, Polydor, Universal, because I kind of felt it was a kind of square in a circle, because I mean it's how we started out. So there is a sense of finality about the album, despite me talking about another album and an album after that. It's kind of feels like, you know, in a perfect world, in some senses, it would be the last album we make. But I hope it is. I mean, it isn't until the next. Well, no, it is until the next one comes out.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we have already made another album, but unless it's released, then it's not real. So effectively, this is who knows what's going to happen. I might not make it home. It might be the last album. I haven't finished singing the second one yet. So so the expectation, it's only really there though when I step out into what I'd consider like the real world. You know, it's not really there at home.
Right.
I'm very lucky because I don't have to work, and so I do spend an awful lot of time in a bubble, and I'm, you know, thankfully I'm kind of self-aware enough to know that I do live in a bubble. But I meet enough people to kind of understand the difficulties of life, you know. But, and I can kind of remember just about how difficult life was when I was younger, and you know, and things weren't quite as easy. But it's really that stepping out into the world and communicating with people, and I do that through the band. It's like I don't really go out very much. I don't socialise very much. And it's then that I get all this, you know, how people perceive The Cure and what it means to people. And it's really that. It's actually quite shocking sometimes, the depth of emotion that the band generates. It is, particularly on a tour, it's really actually quite hard to cope with, because people are looking at you like you're something that you're not. Because I don't see myself as the singer in The Cure. You know, when I'm at home, that isn't me. So it's so I've had to kind of readjust a little bit with this particular period of because the album has been much more successful, much more high profile, whatever the right word would be, than I imagined. I thought it would come out, and I thought that Cure fans would love it. I didn't imagine for a second that it would get the accolades that it's getting, though. And that's not being kind of I really didn't. I just thought it's actually kind of quite it's almost like a giant. Like someone's going to say it's not actually. It's not. None of the,
But
we
number
were
one
joking.
here,
They
but
keep
also
sending me the wrong charts. It's like, no.
yeah, we were just joking.
The first
but
one that came
also,
through, I was thinking, really? I had to go online and check it. I thought, like, someone's taking the piss.
but also number one stateside as well. I mean, hugely successful in America as well.
Yes, and again, that's very gratifying, and it just shows that there's we play big shows and stuff, but I think that the mainstream is we've never been mainstream as a band, even when we were like at our probably the peak of our success, although we're kind of pretty much back where we were back there anyway, but we've never been perceived as a mainstream band because I've never really done or said the right things, and we've always been a slightly kind of awkward, slightly difficult, and so there's someone else is much easier that they can shove into, whoever they are, that can be placed into that prime position, who play kind of gentler, more accessible music and stuff. There's a place for it as well. I don't begrudge anyone that does anything. I admire, actually, as I've grown older. I know how difficult it is to do anything. But I think it saved us, actually, from becoming too kind of obvious, too bland, too sort of predictable. So so in America, actually going to number one, although not on the big chart. I mean, but it was top 5 in the big chart. I thought, even that's like,
It's massive.
and that's really astonishing for people in American media are saying like, what's this? They also think something's gone wrong. It's like, how is this possible that the Cure so, which is really good. I mean, that's sort of part of what we've always done. We sort of like appear and it's like number one, and then disappear again. It's sad that we disappear so quickly, but yeah, it's funny. If we were to maintain that kind of profile and that level, I think I mean, the reason, like in 1992, the Wish album went to number one pretty much everywhere, and the band just completely fell apart. The following year, everybody left. I had a breakdown. It was because it was like 10 years of building up to that, and I think I'd gone something slightly mental. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. I don't know. I wasn't myself, and I took I took a break from everything because I realised that I and the band, everyone to do with what we were doing, was actually changing and was in danger of changing forever. So I think I'm way too old for that to happen now.
Right.
It's
with retrospect,
because it's like I said earlier, it's very gratifying, but it's not kind of head turning stuff. I know how distracted I get when we play shows. I get kind of sucked into that world, and I know that I just won't finish what I'm doing. And I've got so many unfinished projects that I almost feel like I want to set aside at least like 9 months just to get everything kind of finished. But I also know that, like, without being dramatic, that 9 months is a long time when you're at my age. It's like thinking, really? So I think the benefit of it is I think very, very carefully now about what I am and I'm not going to do. It's much more important to me that I don't waste my time now. When it's the same for everyone. When you're younger, it's like the end seems so far away. You can just wasted entire months.
Oh, it's annoying looking back, isn't it? Wasted time.
Although you can always figure that no time's really wasted. Even when you think you're wasting time, I think it's I mean, my idea of wasting time when I was young was reading books. So actually, it wasn't a waste of time at all. It probably done me more good than anything else I've ever done. Yeah, it was my wasted time, and led to me writing songs. So yeah, but it's very it's kind of glib in a way, and I always been very aware of it that I don't have to work, and it always kind of makes me feel uncomfortable because it's like it's not really the case for most people. They can just like waste time because they don't have very much time to waste. So it's But yeah, I suppose a better way of putting it is I value my time a lot more now than I used to.
Definitely. And one of my last questions was to do with, I think it was the Alone, the single, with the first word. I think that when you're talking about time and taking time to make sure you're doing things for the right reason, there was an opening lyric or an opening line that you suddenly said, this has unlocked it. It all makes sense. And like you said throughout this interview, it became real to you at that point. Yeah. Do you remember that moment? Was that the...
Yes, it was a poem that I had. So I've got books that I've written over the years, just written things down to save me trying to remember things. And and I was looking through one. I was trying to think. Like, I knew I knew there was a poem that had said what I wanted to say, and it's a poem called "Dregs" by Ernest Dowson, and it's just that was it. I read the poem. I thought, I can't nick it. I must be inspired by it. But I'd already got half the words, and I was clumsily trying to say what he had written absolutely brilliantly. And so I lifted a couple of lines and just kind of ran them back to front. And it's different writing a song than writing a poem. I mean, I've always maintained that there are elements that that are essentially the same. There are rhyming patterns and meter and everything else. But when you're writing your own songs and you know you're singing them, you tend to sing them I sing them when I'm writing them. So it has to kind of, like, I can write and write and write, and I know that I'm not going to sing it. Sometimes I can spend hours, and then I look at it and I think it's a really, I say to myself, that's a really nice piece of poetry.
Right.
But there's no way you can ever sing that, because it's just like, it doesn't sound real, it doesn't sound true, it doesn't sound like you. And so I had to reinterpret what he'd written, because it would have sounded, if I just sang the poem over it would have sounded stupid. But essentially, his idea of toasting with bitter dregs, that was the line actually in the poem, because I thought that was the feeling that I wanted to try and convey, was the hopelessness of, it's not a morning show, is it, this?
No, I've never done morning shows, it's fine.
Please, don't change channel. Yeah, it's just conveying that, I think I've said as well, it's that moment when the sky starts to lighten, and for lots of people, and it can be a really, you think, whoa, the sun's coming up, and it can. But there are also times when you think another night's gone, and it was I was trying to capture that sense of, like, there's another day gone kind of thing.
That's interesting. No, I love that. And would you say, like, the truth and the artistic vision and keeping things real, would that be your advice to a new band starting out now, would you say?
I think what my advice, it is much better to fail in anything on your own terms than it is to succeed on someone else's. That's the only thing that I've always held to be true. So all through the years of The Cure, there have been many times when we could have done better in some way, commercially or whatever, but it wouldn't have been right, because it wouldn't have been how I wanted to do it. So we've been fortunate in that most of the time, how I thought we should do it, it's kind of worked out. When I was younger, I was surrounded by people who were older than me, telling me what was right and what was wrong and how you should do it. And it's almost like you leave school and you're in a band, and then you're still surrounded by people who think they're teachers, and then you think, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Because I'm listening to, at the time, the Clash are inspiring me or something, and I'm being told by someone who's 10 years older than me, this is what you do. I'm thinking, no, that isn't, you have no idea. So I come out of a particular period of time which was punk, which was like everyone thought they knew best and they were going to do it for themselves, and that's kind of like, it suited me and still does, So I'm not sure it's as easy now as it was then. In fact, I know it isn't, to do what I'm doing, but but that core idea of just like doing something because you think it's the right thing to do it's essential, because you can become really, it's essential if you want that. The thing is that it's in the modern world, that doesn't mean anything. It's more important to get your music used to advertise some piece of tat than it is to think that you've got a long career. So people want different things, But I think if you want to enjoy being creative for something more than being famous or making money, it's essential that you do it on your own terms, because otherwise it doesn't have any value.
Absolutely. Thank you. Wise words. Robert Smith.
Never thought anyone would say that to me.
I did. Thank you so much for coming in. It's so lovely to meet you. The album's absolutely beautiful, and it was worth the wait, certainly. I watch the space and see what comes next. Thank you, Robert Smith. Thank you.